She was like, "Hey, do you want to try this? Because we hate this." And all I had was like just vinegar bitters mixed with like club soda, and it was really good for me personally. And I think everyone else who had it hated it.
Oh man, I have some malt vinegar and sea salt potato chips in the pantry right now. Like, I'm not a big fan of the regular salt and vinegar chips, but give me that malt vinegar. Ooh, dog, all day long, baby.
I literally just made homemade salt and vinegar chips yesterday.
That sounds so good. How do you make the chips?
It's the easiest thing. Like, you cut like 3 potatoes like thinly, and you soak them in 2 cups of vinegar for like 30 minutes, and then you just like put them on a pan and roast them in the oven for like half an hour.
Nice.
Like, you just need to like lightly grease the pan, and then like salt. I put salt, pepper, and rosemary on it.
Heck yeah.
Cool.
That sounds great.
That sounds awesome.
And I don't even know how long I actually put them in for, because like I think I just got drunk and was like just walking over to the oven and being like, those could be crispier.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 65, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey everybody.
And John Hines.
Hey there.
And, last week we talked about Nintendo 64, and this week we're going to talk about some Nintendo 65.
All right.
But,
the GameCube.
The direct sequel.
Yeah. But no, that was a terrible joke, but we're just going to keep rolling from there. And, John, I know you've been, neither Randall and I were both terrible co-hosts because we didn't take any time to look into Blaseball, which you texted us about in the Discord probably a couple weeks ago now. So we should have taken the time to check it out. You've still been harping on it at us. And what do you got to say about that?
So Blaseball I got into in season 2. It is a live action sports. It's very difficult to describe, like, without, at least have some familiarity with baseball in general, or like watching a like baseball ticker, usually like on a website. Like, if you've ever watched like a score recap of a sport, like it's very similar to that. And like it has
box score stuff.
Right. Or like, how when you would watch a baseball game on like television, how in the bottom, it would show the like outs, the balls, and like the position of the like runners on base.
Right.
And so like it is basically just a distilled version of baseball in that respect, where it'll say who's pitching and who's batting and like all that information, and it functions on its surface like very much like, at least it did in season 1, it functioned very very closely to baseball, where it was a 99 game season that took place Monday through Friday, and then the postseason would happen on Saturday.
That's
and
great.
And then on Sunday it would reset. So like I missed the first season of Blaseball. It was still starting out and just like kind of having rumblings on the internet, but it started, no pun intended, to reach a fever pitch around season 2, when like everyone that like my sphere started getting involved in it and like really following it. And we are still in the discipline era of Blaseball. And the thing that you need to remember is that the commissioner is doing a great job.
I've heard that. Yeah,
Yes.
I understand that that's the case.
Is the commissioner a real person?
Is anyone a real person in Blaseball?
Yeah, this might
Here
all
we
be
go.
a simulation.
Because, well, then that's the thing, is that like Blaseball is also in one way, it is just a fantasy baseball like experience with fictional teams and fictional players. At the same time, it is also sort of a fictional world building or like tabletop RPG, like kind of like, it is so community driven at the same way, like, or at the same time, so that like there are storylines that are just created whole cloth, separate from the actual, like the literal website, which is just blaseball.com. So like that is, if you all you did was follow blaseball.com, that is one thing where you would just get like, you know, little bits and pieces of information on the actual games that are being played like every hour of every day. But there's also a very vibrant Discord community. When I joined, there was like 1,000 people who had joined. I don't know what it is now, but like there were specific like Discord channels for like each team. You would like go into it and then you only have access to whatever team you choose. So like I chose the Chicago Firefighters, and for seasons 1 and 2, Firefighters were doing really, really good. But in season 3, God, I haven't even talked about the elections. Oh God. So there are other things that come into play which that separate Blaseball from baseball, and there are additional rules that get added every season. And they are voted on by the fans. And I don't know if this was in season 1 an additional rule or if this was from the beginning, but there are rogue umpires who will incinerate players randomly. They're not, and for no reason. There doesn't seem to be any real reason, but that is the only way that players are freed from Blaseball. And
I'm not following any of this, by the way, but keep going.
Yeah. But there's you are at the time, like when you are watching it or like following it, like you are at the same time like kind of excavating as much information as you possibly can, because it is either given you like from the website or from the commissioner, who is doing a great job.
Of course.
And like otherwise
we all know
you are
that.
just putting together what little information is given to you. One of the rules that was elected or that we've voted on and was put into place for season 3 was peanuts. And that was the only thing. There was no description. All like a lot of them were like, oh, like, you know, if the teams will be reshuffled in this case, or like another one that got voted, and which is one of the reasons why the Firefighters are not doing so well this season, is that any team that didn't make the postseason got an additional strike. So you have to strike them out. They have to have 4 strikes in order to get them out. So the teams have really changed in rankings since last season.
That's quite a handicap.
So hold on real quick. Like what is this based off of? Like is this just like procedurally generated players and outcomes, or like I'm not following what is like
like
what is projecting these outcomes, like what are you actually
teams,
following?
And like the Firefighters since I've been following have had Baby Urlacher and Atlas Guerra and like, you know, they you can sometimes, you know, in addition to elections, there are boons or bounties that you can pray for, and some of them will like either randomly change your like shuffle your like lowest like 3 players like and give you new ones, or one of them like will replace the arm of your pitcher with a literal cannon.
All right.
Like
that helps.
So it's so nebulous. Like I think I started to talk about how like peanuts were established, and now suddenly one of the weather conditions is just birds. And like because they're like, since peanuts were introduced, like there's just been like that it became another metric that you would have. Like you had coins that you could bet on outcomes, and then you once you amassed more coins, then you could buy votes, and that's what you would use to like go for elections or for bounties. And like, but then like once peanuts were introduced, people just started getting millions of peanuts and like the commissioner was not happy, and like suddenly but like again, this information is just being this slow trickle that is very asymmetric, because for all as good as the job that the commissioner is doing, it's still very hard to trust everything that like the things that are being told to you as given as fact, or like, and because it's just this really interesting way of storytelling that like I have not encountered in any other way. And like the fact that you are doing this with like literal other people, like and I'm in the Discord channel like following games with like random people who and the motto of the firefighters is "We are from Chicago."
There you go.
So you'll just like
cry.
see anytime a homer is hit by Jeremy Butts on the Chicago firefighters, you'll just see in the Discord just dozens of people just like typing in all caps, "We are from Chicago."
So what are you watching? Like, are you watching like
a ticker?
Is it just like it's just the ticker? Okay.
Yeah. So, and then it happens in real time, or like that's the other nice thing is that like, if you're like me, someone who enjoys baseball, but really can't stand the fact that it takes hours and hours.
Naturally,
on end,
sure.
Mm-hmm. Like, that would be me as well.
having a game that lasts like 30 minutes is incredible. Like it's just,
and
like,
is it like an actual ticker? Like, can you be doing other things on your computer and like just have like a bar scrolling across the top or bottom? Or
is its like own
do you
tab.
have to be paying full attention? Okay.
Like you could probably have like a separate tab, like opened in like half a window or something. And, or like if you had another monitor, just have it open. But like it like is doing all games that are playing concurrently. So like, usually like I'll just like scroll it so like the firefighters will be on the screen, but like, you know, it'll say who's pitching, top or bottom of whatever inning, and then the, you know, balls, outs and strikes, and like it gives a little bit of play by play on like, oh, like foul ball, like now there's an extra strike. Like it is like at like both times it is a really good way to scratch an itch for someone who like still kind of wants to like, you know, follow baseball but not have to actually care.
Not have to watch 162 games or whatever. They're like, we're gonna do a shortened season this year, it's only gonna be 95 games. Cool. I don't know how many it is exactly, but it's like that's still a long ass season, guys.
Yep.
So it's a great way to like lower the stakes to zero and like still scratch that itch, but also like give you just a bunch of like, I don't know what, like there are a lot of eclipses that happen and I don't know what effect that has on the season, but there's just way more eclipses than normally.
So your core interactivity with Blaseball seems to be, besides being a fan and acknowledging that the commissioner is doing a great job.
Oh yeah.
Your core interactivity is using your voting to affect the next season and put your team in a better position that way.
Yes, right? I'm mostly betting on like games to gain more money, to place more votes on what I think will make next season very interesting, which is my rule that I am hoping will get enacted is that stolen bases count for 1/10 of a run.
That's awesome.
And I think that would be really interesting.
How much how demanding is it that you pay attention to what's going on in the game? Like, are you doing other things while you're watching the ticker, or is it just like I am full blown like watching the ticker live and adjusting things on the fly? I'm just kind of trying to grasp like what is going on here.
Depending on like, you know, if it's a meaningful game or like what, like this season the firefighters are trash, so like I'm basically checked out. Like I'm not like following it, but like before we were like number 2 like in the league overall, and like, you know, we had a good chance to like have a go deep in the playoffs. So like I was really invested in like every game. I was like, oh, we're playing the Dallas Stakes, like that's gonna be a good, like if we beat them that's gonna put us in a great position. So like, you know, I was still like kind of invested, but like again, you play each team like in like in each hour you play them like 3 times. So even if you like, I was missing like dozens of games per day and it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's not like that fantasy, especially with baseball. Like if you're playing fantasy sports, like baseball is like they're rotating out players all the time. Like you really have to be watching the schedule. Who's pitching, who's playing today. Like where football, fantasy football, which is the only fantasy sport I've personally played and only a couple times, but it's like every Sunday and Monday, honestly. It's like it's really easy to manage and maintain. Where baseball is like way more extreme.
No, yeah, like because like a baseball game or season has in real life has 160 or whatever,
literally 10 times as many games as football as a football season. Yeah.
But no, it's scratching an itch on like multiple itches, honestly, of like, you know, someone who wants to see sports or someone who like wants to just see a really weird dystopian sci-fi narrative unfurl in real time.
Right.
I think it's really fascinating and like I'm really excited to be a part of it. Like
that's awesome.
Just as like a fan, like I don't need to really do anything, but just like following it and participating in it, I think is really unique that I've never really seen anything like it.
That's you got to send us, or you already did send us the link to that Discord, or maybe just the website, but send us a link to that Discord because I'm definitely interested in checking this out.
Oh, yeah.
But for once, I am actually playing a new video game.
Wow.
And, one of the few times we're talking about a new video game that's not Animal Crossing, I'm going to be talking about Carrion or Carrion. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's one of the newer games. It just came out, I think, this past week, maybe a week ago. But it's like a horror themed game. It's, it's kind of a Metroidvania. It's a lot of people are comparing it to like The Thing. And I would say that's the film. Right. And if you're familiar with that, I would say that's a pretty good comparison. You are kind of playing as like this tentacled, just kind of brain massive monster. Yeah. Like I don't know exactly how to explain it, but like it came out again just a couple weeks ago, and it was the day it came out, it was on Game Pass. So I was like, hey, this is yet another chance to cash in on that Game Pass subscription.
Right.
And this game, Randall, you and I have talked about on the podcast before, like how we're not crazy about like the super violent stuff, right, or like the gory stuff. And I think, John, you're kind of in the same boat, where we're not like, that's definitely not an appeal to a video game for us. We're like, oh yeah, look at all that gore and whatnot. We're to the point where like I thought that was maybe going to be more of the focus of this game. Like, okay, it is kind of leaning into that, like The Thing, like kind of grotesque thing, and you are playing as the monster. So this is like the situation where you're killing people, like kind of like Ape Out, but even though with Ape Out, you kind of feel like, hey, you're an ape that was in captivity, you're on the run. Like you kind of felt like
they deserved it.
You're liberating yourself. We're like, and I guess you're kind of doing the same thing as the monster, like the game as the monster in this game, because you do just kind of start out in like a test tube. You shake the joystick a few times and you break out of the test tube, and the game just starts. And I love that.
Nice,
like just absolutely love that. I've only played probably about an hour and a half of this game or so, but it's got like a Metroidvania feel, but like mixed with like an arcadey vibe, because it kind of like the way it splits up the segments. Like there's no map, at least to the best of my knowledge. Like I've not been able to look at a map at any point in time, but each like section or not section or segment, whatever you want to call it, is like kind of interconnected in a way that like you can clearly see like, okay, there's one more thing I can do in this area, but I clearly need a new ability that I don't have yet.
Okay.
And so like, as you're going through the levels, so as I mentioned already, you're going to be killing some humans, and certain types of humans that you can eat. You actually like eat them and consume them, and they will not only replenish your health, but after a certain point, you actually like upgrade, and you like upgrade your biomass, or I forget exactly what the term they use is, but like you actually like evolve. So like you go from having 4 or 5 hit points to having 10 hit points, or double the hit points. And then if you access certain like acid pools, you can actually leave. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So like the way this game controls, you're controlling this monster, and again, it's like a 2D side scroller Metroidvania type deal.
Which that alone's pretty unique for a horror game. There aren't that many 2D horror games in the overall scheme of things.
That's a good point. Yeah, and like the way it controls is really interesting, because like especially once you start like evolving a little bit and like developing a bigger mass of flesh, like you said, John. Like you have such a range, like your tentacles or whatever they are that kind of reach off of your body or whatever will grab onto anything. So like the ceiling, the walls, anything. So like you're pretty much, it almost feels like you're controlling a top-down game. Like you really have like kind of full control. Like if you just want to move upwards, you just hold down up. You can climb up walls. You can climb on the ceiling. You can climb on just literally anything that you can touch.
That's cool.
And then otherwise it kind of plays like a twin stick shooter where you have to like use the other joystick to aim and like grab things with your tentacles. Like I want to grab this like air vent or like, you know, duct that's kind of blocking the vent, and I'm going to rip that out so I can climb through the vent. And almost like Mark of the Ninja style, there's like different paths you can take. And then one of the things that I started getting to is like, so now I've evolved to where like I got this ability where I can kind of shoot like spider webs that will like, maybe I can shoot it through like a tight gap, and then it will like let one tentacle sneak through and then like pull on a switch that will open a gate that I can pass through or something like that. But like, it just like it makes like situations like I just unlocked a new ability where you can hold down the button and dash through like wooden barriers that are a little bit heavier that you weren't able to break through before.
Yeah.
And at first, those use the same button. So I was like, okay, you must have to just tap the button to use the web or hold it down to do the charge. And I was kind of confused. But you actually, if your creature is too large or if it's large enough, like if you've evolved to that second stage of evolution or whatever, you can do like the breaking through the barrier attack, but you can't do the web anymore. And then again, like I mentioned before, those acid pools that you find, you have to like drop off a portion of your biomass and like leave it there so that you can then have your web ability and then like maybe consume a few more humans to then grow again or replenish your health again.
That's cool.
Like just regularly. And there's like just like little rooms you have to go in. It's just like it's got this really like spooky, just like haunting vibe. And again, I'm not always into the just chowing down on people. But it's like, it's kind of cool in this game. Like it takes a little getting used to the controls for sure. Like especially that dual stick, because you have to like, when you open a door, like you have to grab the door and then like pull the joystick away to like open it. Like, so it's like, it's kind of physicsy a little bit the way the controls work. But this game is really, really cool. Like, again, I just checked it out because I was like, oh, it seems like this is the game everyone's talking about. And it's on Game Pass, so I might as well. I have a subscription. I might as well check it out. And it's really, really cool. And there's even segments into the game. Like I'm only about an hour and a half in, so I would say this is not too spoilery or anything, but like seems to be almost like a flashback where you will play as like a human. And it even has like controls kind of like Flashback on the Super Nintendo or like Prince of Persia. Like it feels kind of like that, a little bit like, you know, almost like overly animated, you know, it's like animation a little bit stiff on the control. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's those sections aren't the best parts of the game, but they're still just kind of like puzzly, like get through this little section, open a few gates, and like it just shifts up the gameplay, and it seems to hint at like, you know, there's some kind of story. Maybe I'm playing as the human that turned into this monster. Sure. I don't know exactly, but I'm really impressed with this game. Like just the way it feels to play is so fluid. Like fluidity is just the best way to describe the way this game feels to control. You can just like, it's so like your creature grows pretty large after even just like evolving to the second stage, which is as far as I've gotten. Maybe you evolve beyond that, but like you just zip around the levels so fast and it feels so fluid. And like even when you're huge, you just squeeze through these ducts and like it just feels really, really great to play once you get the hang of it.
You got to eat, man. You got to find the next kill.
I was going to ask because like I was watching like videos and clips of you playing the game. Like, is there a jump button or is it all like just momentum based where like you can basically just like push in a direction and anything that you reach you can move over?
It's all just like push in a direction, like no jumping. And again, it's like as long as you it like I said before, like it almost feels like you're controlling a top-down game. Like even though you're playing a side scroller, like if you want to go upwards, you just point the joystick up and like your tentacles will probably grab something that will pull you upwards. So it feels really fluid in that sense.
Because it also like honestly, it looked, I forget what the name of the platformer was, but there was one where like it was like you controlled water. And like
I think it was called Fluidity. It was on Nintendo Wii.
Yeah,
that game was awesome.
Yeah,
it reminded me a ton like when I was watching clips of that, because like you were moving like real quick like on like surfaces, but like not like, you know, through like what you traditionally would, which is like a lot of jumping in a Metroidvania.
Right.
So like seeing you like tied to like the actual terrain looked really cool.
It is really cool. Yeah, you kind of, and like you'll see like there'll be like scaffolding or like staircases, like metal kind of, almost like, you know, the back of an apartment building or something in the city, like that kind of staircasing. And like the enemies or like there will be guards. Sometimes they're just like scientists, but sometimes they're guards with guns and stuff. But they'll be like walking around on those and they stay on those, but you can just zip right through those like as if they're not even there. Like they're just like, you just grab onto the ceiling or grab onto the wall or grab onto anything nearby and just float right through them. Like it feels really great. Again, it just takes a little getting used to like the dual trigger controls and like grabbing stuff and pulling it back towards you and like making sure that you're like eating the human to regain your health. Like it took me a second to like, okay, you do have to actually like pull them like kind of into your mass of flesh to make sure that you consume them. So it's you know, it takes a little getting used to for sure, but not very long, like I said. And I do love, like, there's so many games that do this now, but I love when a game just starts immediately.
Yep.
Like the intro of the game is the tutorial, kind of like Super Metroid, you know?
Yeah.
Like it just starts off and you have like a boss battle right off the bat, and then it's like, okay, now you know how to play. Now play the game.
That's
awesome. Like I really like that. You know, I can't stand when a game takes over an hour or even a half an hour just to like learn the ropes. So
right.
That is certainly not the case with Carrion. So I highly recommend this one, even if you're not someone who leans towards the horror stuff. So
yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. Got it downloaded already. So
nice.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Nice. Well, you know, I know I've just said I don't play a ton of horror themed games, but one more kind of horror-ish themed game that I have been playing, also on Xbox Game Pass, and you and I have both been playing a little bit of this, Randall.
Yep.
And I can't say I put any huge time. You know, I put maybe 2 hours into it, but it's a game called Demon's Tilt.
Yes, sir.
And it is a virtual pinball game. And we've talked quite a bit of pinball stuff on the podcast in the past. Well, particularly Randall has.
Yes, sir.
But I would say most of that stuff has been, correct me if I'm wrong, Randall, but has been like more like this is trying to emulate a realistic pinball experience.
Yeah. For the most part. Yep.
Yeah, this is more of like if you're familiar with stuff like, I think they're called like Aliens Crush and Devil's Crush on the Sega Genesis.
Nope, on the TurboGrafx.
Or TurboGrafx. That's right.
Yep.
But yeah, it's kind of more similar to that. Where it's like it even has a little bit of that like 16-bit or even maybe a little bit of 30 more 32-bit. It's got some pretty cool pixel art.
So. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of I don't know. Why don't you talk? I've been talking a lot here, Randall. So why don't you? I know you've just kind of dipped into it a little, but what do you think of Demon's Tilt so far?
So the first time I played Demon's Tilt, and I did check it out mainly because it was on Game Pass, but the first time I checked it out, I wasn't super into it because it was so damn zoomed out that I'm like, and I kind of my living room's kind of big enough where I sit pretty far away from my TV. And, you know, I'm not the youngest man anymore in the first place either. So it's like, this shit is like really zoomed out. Like I'm having a tough time. And it's like, it's like a pinball machine setup essentially. So it's more in that vertical, you know, tate mode type of presentation, even though it's presented on my obviously horizontal, you know, diagonal television. So I'm like, wow, this looks really cool, but man, I'm having a tough time here. And I think it was late, so I didn't bother getting into any of the options, but I saw there was a million of them and I'm like, yeah, let me play something else tonight. And then I talked to you about it, Kevin, and you're like, no, man, there's a million options. Go in there. You can adjust some sliders regarding zoom and, you know,
tons of options.
Yeah, tons of options. You can add that little flash thing on the ball, kind of like they did with the puck in like a couple of seasons of the NHL in the 90s, so you can follow it.
I always thought
easier.
that was weird that they just stopped doing that.
People hated it.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
A lot of people didn't, so that's why they got rid of it.
Yeah. After they put it in Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, they were like, we've had enough.
It totally worked there, though.
It was awesome. Yeah. Maybe that's where I actually liked it and not in real life.
Yeah. I mean, the goalie literally turns into a brick wall in Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, so you don't need a lot of realism there. But back to Demon's Tilt. So I played it again after you chided me about it, and I adjusted options and zoomed it in, and I got into it, and I'm like, oh,
yes,
this is great.
Nice.
Like it's
so good.
Yeah, one of the better pinball games I've played in a while, I would say. And not someone that's naturally super drawn to the virtual pinball stuff necessarily, but I do really like Devil's Crush and Alien's Crush on TurboGrafx. So kind of happy to see the spiritual successor here. And yeah, it's one table, but that one table is really, really great. Yeah.
It's got a lot of aspects to it. Like it's almost like they I think in the description it calls it like a 3-tiered cathedral, and it kind of is like, it is like this, there's demons all over the place, and it even has like bullet hell elements of it where there's like enemies that are shooting these kind of crazy bullet patterns that like when the ball hits it, it kind of blocks it essentially.
Yep.
But as you like, there's like kind of the main bottom tier that has like this kind of ghoul at the bottom, and then there's like the middle tier that has this kind of like, I don't know, queen looking demon in the middle,
like that's wearing a crown with like a basket, and you want to get the ball in the basket so that it'll like fire up into the top section where you really can get a lot of points and start hitting some objectives.
Yeah, there's like a snake and a lion and some other thing up there, like a revolver, rotating lock system, like just so many crazy things. And one of the things that I really like, you talked to, or I mentioned at the beginning, like most of the games you've talked about have been like kind of realistic feeling pinball. And this one, for the most part, I mean, the physics feel realistic-ish, but like it has just that little, like that extra, like, when you hit the ball with like essentially enough momentum, like towards a ramp, like the game's just gonna like suck the ball into that ramp. And like I love that, like all the little stuff that's like annoying when you're playing real pinball. This game like gives you that little bit of edge, and it even lets you like move the joysticks to tilt the cabinet a little bit. So like if you're like, oh, that ball's gonna fall down the pit, like I can just shift it just a little bit, and like kick it to the right or kick it to the left. And like
I felt that
up until I realized there was like the extra mode. I think it was just called EX mode. Which just adds in like a few new rules, which it doesn't really describe, at least not that I was able to find, but it also adds in like extra sub tables that you can unlock. Were you able to see any of those, Randall?
No, I just kind of stuck with the normal mode. I was so sucked into that I didn't even try anything else. It's
basically the same, it's that same table, but just every once in a while you'll like kind of, there's certain kind of trigger points that'll unlock like a little mini table.
Nice.
And it feels very like Metroid Prime pinball on the DS.
Always
we were talking about the DS earlier, which
Heck
is never a bad sign.
No.
My one thing I'll say, I know, like you said, Randall, I think the one table they have here has a ton of variety. Like it feels great. I played it for about 2 hours earlier today, right before we recorded the podcast. But I think this game does go for about $20. And that does seem, we're both playing it on Game Pass, so like I'm just like, hell yeah, this is awesome. I don't know that it has enough there at that $20 price tag. I got to say that even though the presentation's great, everything about this game is solid. And I know we don't talk a ton about like price tags, but like I got to say I'd be a little disappointed if I dropped $20 and like, hey, there's not anything more than this, even though the game is awesome and the presentation is worth 20. I'm kind of torn, I'm just in this weird like in between of like, the game's amazing. I really want to recommend it, but I'd also, maybe this is me being unemployed right now too, but like $20 is $20,
Sure.
And I don't know that I'd be super pumped to buy a single table. But then again, if you bought a real pinball machine,
oh God,
if you're thinking
thousands.
About, exactly. So, but again, when you can probably spend $20 on one of those like collections like you have and get multiple tables, it's like what. I don't know. I just had a little bit of a tough time wrestling with the value of it, like giving it such a strong recommendation because I do love this game. I
think I see that argument, and obviously a lot of indie games in its tier or more on the $15 level. I don't want to get too much into like devaluing indie work necessarily.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm just like, I feel bad about that.
But I'll also say I seriously considered the Switch version, even though I have Game Pass, because I have that flip grip. And it looks like there's a Tate mode with this, and I feel like that would be the best possible way to play this. you know. So I'm like, oh, like I considered it. If there's a sale, I might look that way.
For sure. Yeah, I like you said, I definitely don't mean to devalue the game in any way because, like I said, it is awesome. But I just feel kind of bad being like, hey, I'm essentially playing this game for free and like being like, hey, you should pick this game up for $20. I feel like kind of guilty in a way saying that for some reason.
It's a slam dunk at the very least if you have Game Pass to just download it and give it a shot. If you have any passing interest in pinball.
Yeah, and definitely like put it on your wish list and pick it up on sale, like you said. Or again, if you're a pinball fan, there's nothing.
It's great.
Yeah, there's no reason it's not worth $20. I don't even know. I kind of feel bad I even brought that up now. But yeah, Demon's Tilt is really, really rad.
There you
go. Yeah, get it on Game Pass and on Switch.
I might, honestly.
Yeah, I might follow suit. I've done it a few times, so it wouldn't be the first.
Yeah.
But John, I know you have been playing, and is this a demo, or I know you've been putting some time into Smash Brothers with a new character, but is it fully actually released now? Or
Oh yeah. No, this was the last fighter that was added. I think they've started the second season of fighter packs. They definitely finished the first
pass or whatever it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like they just keep adding more stuff and more mechanics. And like I remember when like Piranha Plant was added to Smash, and I was like, good Lord, they are really adding like
they're stretching. Yeah.
No, I was saying they're adding like just like wild new ways like for fighters to interact, because like for a while there, you know, I was like, okay, cool, how many like Fire Emblem like sword characters can we add?
All of them.
That like the only difference is like, okay, Lucina does more damage if you hit in the middle of like the hitbox for her sword, whereas Marth is like at the tip, so like that's where you're mostly like changing your strategy. But like once they added like Piranha Plant, I was like, oh, they are completely changing how you approach like just fighting any character with like these wildly different characters. And the character that they added most recently is Min Min, who I was very happy to see because she was the only character I played in the ARMS Test Punch demo.
Nice.
She's got ramen on her head.
How nice that they added the one character I played.
They knew.
So they could transfer my main over. But yeah, Min Min controls very differently. Like I'm always a fan of the melee characters in or like the non-weapon melee characters in Smash.
Sure.
I like how that, you know, they're typically closer range, but like you have a lot of you know, aggressive play styles that focuses more on dodging, like but like also being very close into the action.
You think a lot of grappling too, potentially.
Yeah. And like the thing that I really like about Min Min is that like she is like a kind of ranged melee attack, because the whole concept of ARMS was that, you know, you had these really long extendable spring-like arms. So instead of having a typical, like it's also kind of similar to like how Ryu and Ken are in Smash, where they are kind of closer to how they control in Street Fighter, even like
I love that
carrying over the actual button inputs from those games.
I love it.
It's and like being able to, you know, do the quarter circle forward and like Hadoken, like felt great the first time that you do that. And like they can't really do that, you know, with the motion controls in ARMS. But what they did do was they took out like the B attack as kind of a special attack and just made you have two standard attacks, but A and B are your left arm and right arm.
Okay.
And like they like in ARMS where you could swap out your arms so that they would have different types of attacks. Like if you press down B, that's the only difference between like A and B, is that down B will swap one of your arms into another one, so you can like rotate them through, like, you know, like you were changing a weapon. And
that's
like,
so cool.
Yeah. And like, but both of them, like, as you like charge them for smash attacks, you know, like it's similar to like in ARMS, you're mostly like trying to like charge them up so that you're like hitting at a distance, but you're waiting for someone to come within range. But like, you have a much larger range, and you're just the way that like it just incorporates a completely new play style to like Smash. I'm just constantly like impressed with how. And again, like I'm not playing, you know, in tournaments, and I'm not playing in like mostly online, so I don't know what the rebalancing is in like the online or competitive Smash communities. But like from someone who is primarily playing as a one-player experience or just with friends, like I really like the variety that it adds.
That's so fun. I love the characters they've added recently that have been so different, like, you know, Banjo and Kazooie or Cloud or all these that like you know, Ken and Ryu that all add elements of their base games into Smash Brothers. It's just like a step beyond what Sakurai and team needed to do to bring those characters in, but they did it anyway.
Yeah,
which
there's
is really
so
cool.
much love and care put into every single character.
Yeah, it's awesome. I do have a question. I didn't get a chance to download this yet, but I'm going to because I love ARMS. I'm a big supporter of ARMS, so I will get Min Min in my Smash game. If you press A and B at the same time, do you grapple?
Oh, I have not tried that. That like that had not even occurred to me. Like, because the other thing
that's how it works in
John's
ARMS,
face was
basically.
great.
I also like this was the first or like I don't know if they're Smash Directs or whatever they're specifically called when Sakurai does the introductions. Like as soon as I saw it was Min Min, I didn't watch the rest of the video. Like I don't know why, but like most of the time
because you wanted
I was
to
like,
play it.
Yeah, like most of the time I would be like, oh, what's this character? How are they going to control? But as soon as I saw the basic like swapping the arms like in like A and B, and I was like, okay, I think I can figure that out. So like, I didn't even think about like, but that would be such a good, that would be a really good touch.
I know.
Well,
I'm gonna download that. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, I still need to, because I only played that probably the same thing that you did, John, the ARMS like trial or whatever. And I thought it was really cool. Like I just played online against some random person. I think they do like kind of like Splatoon, like the random like tournament weekend trial or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this game is really cool, even with the motion controls, which is something I'm not super into. I definitely tried the Pro Controller because Randall specifically suggested that. Like he was like, if you're gonna try it, play it with the Pro Controller. And it's a very interesting fighting game. It's like, you know, it kind of takes elements of like Power Stone, but like
it's definitely more
from
of an
an over the shoulder
party
perspective.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a cool game that I need to play more of and need to get actually because I don't have that game.
I love ARMS.
Like I mentioned it like before we started recording that like I really liked the demo I played of ARMS, but like I could already feel myself getting outpaced by the people who were playing it. And
I had the same problem.
I just didn't have it in me to like be diligent enough to be good at the game.
Hashtag fighting games.
Yeah, I was like fun mechanics, but if this is strictly kind of, or at least primarily multiplayer, I'm not going to get, just like I do with Smash, you know, I usually skip those because like if I'm going to play it, I'll play it at a friend's house, but like I'm not going to get the value out of playing that game at my house on my own. I'm just for me personally.
Yeah.
I did, but I understand that sentiment.
Yeah. Did you play with Tina at all, or were you just playing the single player mode?
No, I played some with Tina, played some with other buddies that are local here. Played a little bit online, but I played the arcade mode and just kind of the single player mode because you still unlock characters doing that and, you know, beat your own scores because it is an arcade mode at its core. And they kept updating it over time and tweaking it and you know, finding better characters that I liked better as I unlocked.
Who was your
more.
main?
Actually, the first, the boss ended up being my main. God, it's been long enough that I can't remember what his name is. He's like
M.
bronzed.
Bison?
Kind of. He kind of looks a bit like M. Bison. But he's my dude. He's like a beefy dude that smashes really hard. It's generally my type in those type of games.
That's a good point that you mentioned though, because like in the demo, it was just, I think there were maybe like 1 or 2, maybe 3 playable characters, but like there was no incentive to unlock more. So like if there was a single player mode of just like, hey, I need to unlock more characters or I need to get this or that or unlock a new item or ability or whatever, you know, I could see that working a little bit more effectively.
Right.
In the context of the actual game.
Yeah. ARMS is great.
Yeah.
Hope they make a sequel.
Me too.
I'm down. Well, we got one more game to talk about tonight, and I'm the odd man out here because I'm now the only one who hasn't touched my resolution game because Randall is getting on that. I know you have spent a little bit of time with Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, Randall, which God, it's been 8 months now.
Finally.
Which is, I'm saying that as someone who I don't even own or have any means of playing the game Undertale that I resolved to play. So,
well, I don't know if that's better or worse than my situation where I bought the game like when it came out and it sat on my shelf all this time, but I have unwrapped
physically, of course, right? Unwrapped it physically, of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and it's nice. It comes with a manual and everything. FDG Entertainment published it, so they put the nice manual in there and other little things in there for you for the collector. The developer's Game Atelier. But so this is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. The main director is the guy that worked on some of the old Wonder Boy games. And this straight up is like another one of those Monster Boy or Wonder Boy games. Like it is a retro game, but it looks so beautiful. Like the game looks like animation cells rather than sprites. Like it's like hand-drawn beauty.
Yeah.
Kind of like that other Monster Boy or Wonder Boy.
I think it was Dragon's Trap.
Dragon's Trap.
Was that the name of it? It was like a remake or whatever on the Switch.
Right.
On multiple platforms. But yeah.
It
was like it had the hand drawn or you could switch into the retro. I think it was originally a Master System game or an arcade game.
Master System and TurboGrafx, among other systems.
I was going to say, I was nervous. I was waiting for you to say TurboGrafx as soon as I opened my mouth.
On there, it's called The Dragon's Curse, but that's
gotcha. And there's the Wonder Boy series is so crazy. We're not the first ones to say this, but like between Adventure Island and Monster Boy and Wonder Boy, it's just like, what the hell are these games? The numbering system is so crazy.
Yes.
But it's kind of nice to just get like, hey, this is just like kind of part of the series, but kind of outside of it.
Yeah.
It's just like its own thing.
It is. But it definitely is one of those. So if you wanted another one of those, it is that. Like to a T. Like it's a Metroidvania, but it's a simplified Metroidvania where, you know, there are things you can't get to, but they're mostly like extras. They're not things you like have to progress generally. There are some of those things. The main conceit of this game is you're a character that gets cursed, hence Cursed Kingdom, that you can then turn into different monsters, hence Monster Boy. The first couple of monsters that I've become have been a pig whose main trait is that he can smell out different truffles and things and like secrets in a given screen to unlock, you know, switches or treasure chests or whatever else to advance. And then the snake can get into small holes that you kind of see when you're the pig, but you can't quite get into yet, that like allow you to get into different rooms and, you know, allow you to get into, you know, secret areas. The snake can also shoot venom that can take out certain enemies where the pig can't. The snake's faster than the pig, and that comes into play where there's a lot of platforming challenges so far. I haven't got that far into this game yet. It seems like it's going to be pretty big. From what I can tell so far, like seemingly quite a bit longer than some of the other Monster Boy and Wonder Boy games, which I'm fine with. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. It's just like so beautiful to look at. There's a lot of reprising of some of the classic soundtrack of these previous games, so nice. Like for fans, they'll be able to pick up on that really fast, that like, oh yeah, I remember that track from Monster Boy 3 or, you know, Wonder Boy in Monster World, you know, a lot of tracks, a lot of themes from that. You're picking up the coins just like you were from those games, but yeah, there's no experience points to get or anything like that. It's very much a streamlined retro game at heart that just looks pretty and is in widescreen now.
Nice. Is it a game where you're like these characters or animals that are monsters that you're swapping between? Or are you swapping between them on the fly, or is that something you have to like get to a checkpoint to change? Or
once I got the snake ability, I could flip between them on the fly, and that just happened, and I'm probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours in.
Okay.
So I think from that point on, I can, I'll be able to swap with the future creatures that I get at that point, seemingly, which is nice because
that's huge. Yeah,
that's already come up with some of these puzzles in some of these like platforming challenges where I'll have to flip from one to the other, start with a pig, smell for a secret, that opens up a switch. I flip the switch. I then turn into the snake because the snake's faster, can get to the end before the timer's up, type of stuff. A lot of those type of platform challenges.
But it's all nice and fluid. Like you're not having to like go into menus and swap out. That's awesome. Because that can be, there's some games I love. Like one of my favorite things in video games is different power-ups or different, just in Mario 3, getting the frog suit or the Tanuki, all the different, I just love that stuff. Or Mega Man, getting all the different power-ups. But like, not being able to like use them effectively or like having to keep diving into menus to keep swapping them out. It's like, don't make it difficult for me to use what's like cool about this game,
There is a little bit of that because there are sub weapons that you collect and you can get, either a 5 count or a 10 count of said sub weapon, either if it's like a fireball or your boomerang or whatever. And you have to collect those things generally by defeating enemies or finding places a la Metroid where those things will spawn for you so you can collect more of them. And sometimes you need those things to get through a certain challenge. So there's a little bit of like a retro jankiness to it there, but kind of over time you just get used to that too. And it hasn't been
farming the enemies a little bit or something, or that just comes with that's just part of the trade.
It is. Yeah. You kind of have to know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
And I'm into it.
I was I was hoping to get a little bit of time with this one because I also have that cartridge on my Switch, but I was kind of waiting. Once I just burned enough time, I was like, I'll wait and see what Randall has to say. But since you're feeling pretty positive on it, I think I'll pop that in this week.
Yes. And I know you like Monster World, and if you like that game, you'll like this game.
Yeah, particularly I think it was Monster World or the fourth one, Monster Boy 3.
It's 3 if you're talking about the Genesis one.
Yes, on the Genesis, but also Monster Boy 4
is
or Monster World 4. I think Monster World 4. Again, I don't remember what they're all called.
I think it is Monster World 4 where you play as the lady. And that's the one that came only to the US on the Wii, I believe.
And on I had it on the PS3. I downloaded it. It was like a downloadable game, but
initially a Japanese only Genesis game. Yeah.
Yes, and really awesome.
Yeah,
like it's a really cool game. So really cool to see this series kind of living on in a way.
Yes.
So
surprising, but I'll definitely take it.
Yeah. But I think we could pretty much wrap it up there this week, guys. As always, you can find links to everything in the episode description. We've got Discord, which I always forget to mention, and Randall is always
That's right.
on top of reminding me of. But we've got YouTube links. I've got the 15 minutes of game series that are tons of videos in that now.
Heck yeah.
Everything we've talked about today, or at least that I've talked about today, Carrion and Demon's Tilt. I have videos of both those games up. And we got Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Links at the very bottom and timestamps, all that stuff. But thanks for listening as always, everybody, and have a great week and take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
But I think we could pretty much wrap it up there this week. As always, we have links in the video. God damn it. All right. One more try here. That's just embarrassing.